So yeah, the Bulls are in trouble, man. They're 9 and 14. They play the Wizards tonight, so if I end up cursing either one of those teams, my bad. We'll get to some big picture stuff with this team, but first just to talk about the basketball a bit. And the thing with this team is when they put this thing together, DeRozan, LaVine, and Vooch, we were all like, well, the offense will probably be good and the defense will be the question. Ironically, this season, their offense is like 25th in the league and their defense is 9th in the league. And I will mostly talk about the offense in this vid, but to touch on the defense, besides when they're getting torched by Devin Booker for 51 points on like 20 made baskets, and then they try to bring 2 on him with Vooch, and then that leads to rolls to the basket for Ayton, and they were just in hell in that game. Their defense has mostly held up okay enough. A lot of the time it's Vooch, either maybe like a step below the level, occasionally in a drop. I think they don't ask their guys to rotate like too hard. I think they switch a lot of simple actions. Like their defense has been okay enough. It's certainly not the terrifying defense when Lonzo and Caruso were together, which I mention every single time I get the opportunity. But it's been okay. Now on to the offense. Speaking of Lonzo, man, we all knew that Lonzo mattered for these guys. Did we realize he mattered this much? I mean, this offense is desperate for more passing, another ball handler, more shooting, because of course Lonzo, 42% on 7 threes a game before he went down last season. All those plays where he will maybe not get the assist, but he'll throw a quick pass to begin the offense at 19 seconds instead of, 12 seconds. It's a pretty large contrast between that and seeing the amount of times where this offense just dissolves into DeRozan or LaVine trying to beat their guy, and maybe they're mismatch hunting, maybe it's a simple screen from Vooch. Yeah, I mean, they're just relying so much on Zach and DeMar to just make tough shots, and hey, sometimes they can do it. I mean, LaVine dropped 41 against the Kings recently, and a lot of them are just simple stuff, him beating his guy in a one-on-one, or again, making a tough jump shot. By the way, Zach has been dealing with a knee thing this year. Even if he hasn't missed a bunch of games, it has been a thing. Against the Warriors, a game that they lost, but it was close late. I mean, LaVine makes a crazy 3 off of an inbound. You had 2, Vooch mid-rangers, one in the post that was like a turnaround, one was a pick and pop. You had Dragic make a tough pull-up 3 in transition. They were in that Warriors game late. But even with that, in the last 3 minutes of that game, they were 2 for 12 from the field. One play where LaVine comes around a Vooch screen, Looney switches onto him, and there's 3 Warriors on him. DeRozan was actually open in the corner. LaVine didn't really see him. Then there were back-to-back plays where LaVine and DeRozan basically just tried to cook their guy. Looney blocked DeRozan on a mid-range, and then Zach got blocked by Draymond at the rim, and it's okay, every team needs their star players to play well, and I don't even know if I'm blaming Zach and DeMar that much because, we'll go down the roster in a second here, but it's just man, these two have to do so much for this offense to just have a chance. I'll go down the roster in a second here. Also in that fourth quarter, Draymond hit a 3, which, that in and of itself, you're not going to bank on if you're a defense. They also lost Clay once on a play where he screened for Steph, and yeah, you don't want to do that, but that's the Warriors. That sometimes happens. Jordan Poole also made some tough threes, including one over DeRozan that was 3 feet away from half court. Anyway, to go down the whole thing, look, Vooch, he's going to give you his pick and pops. He's going to get some possessions in the post, some offensive rebounds, some dives to the rim, but it is what it is. He's not the amazing spacing big who's going to kill every single mismatch and have this great chemistry with Zach and DeMar. It just hasn't happened. Vooch has been fine overall. I do think he sometimes ends up being the scapegoat for this team, but still, that one season he was having with the Magic where he was dropping 25 a game and all that, the Bulls did not get that guy. Some of that is due to less shot attempts, of course, but yeah. And then you go down the rest of it, man. Between Ayo Dosunmu, who he certainly has the guts to attack the basket. He's a good passer. The shooting is what it is. Patrick Williams, the percentages are good. With him, it's always been a question of can he handle more attempts, and whether that's the team encouraging him, the team looking for him more. I don't know, but the attempts just haven't really happened like that. Alex Caruso, I will never stop bringing up him and Lonzo at the beginning of last season defensively, but, Caruso, he's not a bucket getter. Kobe White, the hope is that he can be a bucket getter, and we expect the 3-ball to be a little bit better, but so far he hasn't been that. Dragic, he's 36 years old. He can only do so much for you at this point. Javonte Green, Derek Jones Jr., guys who have some versatility with the positions they can play. They've had moments of those two screening and rolling. Of course, Jones can dunk on somebody's head. They have value, but this team needs more shooting. This offense is just in a tough spot. They lead the league in mid-range attempts, which a lot of that's DeMar, and that's fine. DeMar's very good for mid-range. Okay. The problem is they're also last in 3-point attempts because the shooting around DeMar and LaVine it's just not there enough. And again, Lonzo fixes a lot of this. I do think there's also a question about, Billy Donovan's offense, and I'm not totally sure how you fix this besides getting more shooting. And I mean, you can try like some more corner actions and throw something different at defenses, but I just think without Lonzo, it's just, oh boy, it's rough. Now, with this said, the season's not completely over just yet, and they're going to let this ride out for a bit, but I guess this can lead into the more big picture conversation with this team. So they're not very good right now, and the only way they get their pick this year is if they finish in the top 4 in the lottery. They do have a Blazers pick if the Blazers make the playoffs. Even if you really want them to tank and do that whole thing, which I have seen a little bit of on the internet, it's very difficult because you could do all that and just not get your pick. And I don't really think the front office wants to do that because of how aggressively they put this team together, and it just seems like the whole thing is we want to be competitive, and I mean, they're not right now, clearly, but they could tell themselves, well, when Lonzo comes back and a little bit of shuffling, we can be. And so then the other idea is, well, okay, well, how do you build this thing up more? Well, I mean, you don't have a lot more picks to trade, as we know. DeRozan is approaching his mid-30s. He's got 2 years left in his deal. I mean, if you were ever going to trade DeRozan, his value would never be higher than right now. But also, he's your closest ticket to being a competitive team because of how good he was last season. He's still pretty damn good right now. He's the best player on the team, so it's just really tough. And it's not like he would get you a 5 draft picks haul because of his age, right? And it's like, all right, what do you want to do? Do you want to trade your best player for a good return but not an amazing one and maybe not get your pick anyway? Or do you want to commit to a nearly mid-30-year-old DeMar DeRozan who is still really good, but also like you're going to have to extend him if you want to do that? I mean, I guess you could go with a small extension, but yeah, it's not easy. And then you got Vooch's contract, and I have no idea what's going to happen with Vooch. So, okay, we'll see if they can climb out of it for now, though.